Hi and welcome to Finding Answers, and tonight's show is a little bit special. Rather than showing you just one story from the studio, we want to revisit one of our favourite topics, family feuds, and show you some of the best episodes that we've had in the past. Now, first of all, we're going to go over to the studio to look at one of our guests, Bianca, who believed that she would never have a happy family.
Very good. So, Bianca, tell us from the beginning, how did the family problems start?
Well, I think from a very young age, I always had some difficulties getting along with my dad. My dad was a very traditional man, so he had in his mind a set way of dealing with children or people that are younger than him. And I think that in his mind, it's more of the attitude that children should be seen and not heard. So I was always told that my opinion doesn't really matter, or I'm not really important. So when I tried to tell him things, he wouldn't really listen to me, or I would feel very pushed to the side. Also, I don't think he really knew how to express love or affection towards me. So when he would want to express himself, sometimes he would say certain things, maybe he was joking, but it really touched home with me. It really affected me as I was growing up. He would say things like, you don't matter, or no one wants to hear what you have to say, or you're stupid, you're just silly. He would say things like that to me all the time. So for me, I got the impression that he wasn't interested in me, or he didn't want to have anything to do with me. He didn't really care about how I felt or where I fit in the family. So I think from a young age, I always started to harbour that inside of my heart towards him. He doesn't care about me, he's not interested in me, he doesn't care what I have to say. And I think as I was growing up into my teenage years, I really carried that against him, and it got stronger, the feelings got stronger, the emotions towards him got stronger, because I felt like it wasn't right. I felt like, why is he treating me this way? Why should I accept this from him? He should know better. I didn't really see from his point of view. I just saw the feelings that it caused me, the emotions that it caused me.
So, do you know if maybe he, as a child growing up, also probably had the same treatment from his father? Did he make mention of that?
Yeah, so as I got older, I started to become more aware that his father did treat him like that, and he did have a lot of family problems himself with his other siblings, and they had a lot of hatred and hard feeling towards his dad. So I think that's where it stemmed from. But at the time, it's like a thing where I could only see from my point of view. I didn't really care or think about how he saw things or how he was brought up. It was more about, okay, what am I feeling? How is this fair on me? Why should I accept this?
You know, Pastor Bruno, unconsciously, most people have the tendency to repeat a certain behavior they saw, you know, or that they witnessed as they grew up in. And it's not necessarily something they liked or enjoyed seeing or witnessing, but sometimes unconsciously, as I'm saying, they just tend to repeat it because that's what they've seen, and it's almost automatic. And maybe this could be a root of the issues in the family of the viewer watching us right now. Things that we never saw when we met the person we married for the first time, but things that were there, you know, present, the roots that were there sometimes for a long time, and because they were not weeded out, they were not uprooted, they are still inflicting damage to the family today.
Pastor Edward, it's very important that the person will know about this, what you're talking about, and know himself. Know to recognize, wait a moment, do I have these issues? Am I carrying over something that is bad, a root, like you said, from my parents, from my grandparents? And in the case of the parents, am I passing it on to the children? Am I being the right role model, the right example? You know, because sometimes we can get so caught up in life with many things to do, work and studies, that we forget to look at these roots. You know, and when people are fighting the problems, like they're fighting the branches of the tree and the leaves instead of going to the root of the problem, if that makes sense. So if they want to solve the problem, they have to tackle the root.
So you saw that affecting your life. Was it ever a time when you said it was the worst time ever, that you got really angry, or you thought about doing something stupid, like, or aggressive or radical?
I think as situations in my family escalated, especially external circumstances, not just the way my dad would treat me. So in terms of his father became ill, and my mum's mother became ill, so my grandmother and my grandfather became ill. His way of dealing with it was to blame us for not helping him, not supporting him. His way of speaking to us would be, oh, nobody helps me in this family, no one does anything to support me. And it really felt like he was putting all the blame and all the pressures on us. And the way of me dealing with that would be to shut myself away from him or to argue back with him and then to just retreat to my room. So I'd get into a state where I'd argue with him, where we would be flying words across each other. I just wouldn't want to be around him. I just completely shut myself away from him.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time that you did it, of course that you were not happy with that situation, right? Because you didn't want to have a grudge against your dad.
No.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how would you feel within yourself during those days?
Inside of myself, I felt upset, I felt angry, but at the same time, it's like I felt like there was nothing I can do to change him, there's nothing I can do to resolve the situation. So the best thing I can do is isolate myself, and then when I get older or as I grow up, I can get away from him, I don't have to deal with him anymore. When
you say isolate yourself, what would you do then? How would you deal with it?
I would go to my room, I would ignore him, I wouldn't speak to him, so I'd only speak to him if he spoke to me. Or sometimes I wouldn't even reply to what he had to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell us, Bianca, how was it that the situation began to change?
Well, before it changed, it got worse. I always got on with my mum, but at that time, during things escalating in my family, so in terms of people becoming unwell in my family, on my dad's side, my granddad became unwell, and he passed away. Then soon after that, on my mum's side, her sister became unwell, then she passed away. Then on my mum's side again, her mother became unwell, and then she passed away. It's a similar cycle of people becoming unwell and passing away, which caused me to feel like I couldn't speak to anyone. My mum isolated her and herself in her room, even though before I had a good relationship with her, I couldn't speak to her. I knew I couldn't speak to my dad. My brother was too young to speak to at the time, so I felt like I couldn't speak to anyone at all. I felt like there was no way to resolve the situation until one day I came across people that were very influential in my life who taught me about faith. Mm-hmm. And one of the main things that I realized that I couldn't change my family, but by starting with myself, I could change the circumstances around me. I thought there was nothing I could do with it about the situation, but if I changed myself, I started with myself, looking inside myself, these issues, these grudges, these feelings, and started to deal with them one by one. Mm-hmm. Through doing that, it was like I saw a change in my family. Mm-hmm. So it started from me inside, for me changing my way, my mindset. And one of the things that really helped me, that I also read in the Bible, was about it doesn't profit you anything to do good for people who are good to you. It shows greater love, and it profits when you do good to people that don't do good to you. So when I thought about it, I thought, okay, so if I say that I love my family and I want to resolve the situation, would I not change myself first and do good to them despite what they may be doing to me? If they're not treating me in the way that I want, my dad's not treating me in the way that I want, I'm going to treat him the way that I would like to be treated. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the basis that I started to change that situation around.
So we're going to conclude Bianca's story just after this short break. But before we go to the break, I want to take you out to the streets of London for one of my favourite street talks on whether or not we still have respect for our elders. Rachel here with Finding Answers, and today I'm finding out whether or not people believe that the younger generation is losing respect for their elders. Let's see what the public have to say. Are younger generations losing respect for their elders?
They certainly are. Yeah, they're terrible. I mean, I'm retired from a Crown Court, and I know what these youngsters are like nowadays, and I wasn't perfect when I was young, but I'm not like they are now.
Absolutely. I think teachers nowadays have no power, parents have no power, the kids are taking over, and that's our future.
Yeah, they are. I've got a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old boy. Well, both of them are boys, and neither one of them listen to anything that I tell them to do, and they don't fear any consequences either. It's water off a duck's back to the pair of them.
I feel the same. I don't think there is any respect now. I don't think there's any threat or any consequence to it. So yeah, unfortunately.
It comes out of school as well. They don't care if they get sent out of class. Well, certainly my kids don't. And yeah, like I said, they just shrug their shoulders. Yeah, well, what's going to happen? Nothing. Because they say, well, you can't hit me. I got child protection, or some glib comment from either of them. So no, they don't.
I would say yes, but I mean it in a good way, in that we're thinking about sort of criticising what's come before and sort of reinventing the world for ourselves rather than just going by what we're told to think.
I think there's different kinds of disrespect. Certainly it's important to criticise elder generations because they have been making mistakes too, and I think some of them you're more likely to notice as a young person. But then there's also just like some people that need to learn discipline, I suppose.
I think it's going both ways in a lot of respects. I think a lot of the younger generation feel that the older generation have sold them short. They can't get access to education. They're paying through the nose to get the qualifications to work. And a lot of the young generation feel they've been sold out by the older generation. So I think the hostility might go both ways.
Do the maths. Changing your life is not as simple as changing your hairstyle, your shirt, or rearranging the furniture in your living room. You're talking about years of deep-rooted habits, behaviours and problems that are not going to change overnight. Many may say, think positively, but the trouble with that is that you can't do or change anything with just thoughts. But add action into the equation and the outcome can be different. Let's do the maths. Positive thinking plus action equals a change. Whatever it is, if the change is significant, if it's worthwhile, then it will have to take time, effort and homework from you.
Hi, I'm Chrissy B and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show.
So the change did not start with the family, it started with you.
Yeah.
You see, Pastor Bruno, this is exactly what we were mentioning here in the beginning, how faith is an intelligent thing. How can one be drowning and at the same time be trying to help save someone else?
Can't.
Even in an airplane, you know, we hear the following instructions when it comes to the masks dropping down in case there is a loss of pressure. Put the mask on yourself first. Maybe there's a child next to you, but don't put it on your child, put it on you and then put it on the child, then help someone else. So it sounds cruel. How can I not help the child first? But no, because by the time that you try to help someone, you can be already fainting due to the lack of oxygen. So this is it. We have to first stand on our feet. Right? You're trying to help others and yourself, maybe you can barely help yourself. So get help for yourself first. Don't try to help your husband or your wife first. Try to help yourself first. Get help. By you getting back on your feet, then you will be able to help others get up too.
For sure, and Bianca touched a very important subject, Pastor Edward, and I believe that's the healing for many problems in the family, the subject of forgiveness. You know, when you take the first step to forgive, because people think that, well, I'll be strong, I'll stand my ground, I will not apologize, I will not seek forgiveness, and the idea, the misconception of many people is that that is being strong. But in fact, the strongest one and the wisest one is the first one to make peace. So there are people that want the family to change, but they are not ready to make the move to bring peace, to become the peacemaker in the house. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, so you took this very important decision. You decided to change yourself first, right? Yes. And as you changed, then they changed. What were the first changes that you started to see within yourself?
One of the first changes that I saw was that I was able to acknowledge my dad, to say hello to him, to smile with him, to actually just speak to him, and not to see it as, okay, he's going to do this or he's going to say this to me, not just to think about the negative things that happened in the past, but instead just have a clean slate with him. And I even hugged him. That was one of the first times that I hugged him sincerely and wasn't like doing it in a begrudging way. And to kiss him, like just to be like how a daughter should be around her dad, to have that relationship, to be able to speak about normal things and just to express myself and not to feel like I can't talk to him about anything.
And then as you started to do this, what were the changes that happened in your relationship with him?
In turn, I feel like he started to do the same thing towards me. He started to be more open, speak to me about situations that he'd go through at work or with other family members, who would speak to me about things. He wouldn't just close himself off, or he'd ask me questions, he'll ask me how I'm doing. He just was more open with me and didn't isolate himself from me, or I didn't isolate myself from him.
So talk to us about how it is today, Bianca.
Today, I can speak to my dad. I can have an affectionate relationship with him. Even it's extended to my other members of my family, such as my mom. She's able to have a more open communication with him. Even my brother as well, he can speak to him more as well. So I felt like through that decision that I made and letting go of those feelings in the past, I was able to open doorways for the rest of my family to have more open communication.
So by the change that you decided to fight to see in yourself, it rippled out and it touched them too, right? And you are happy today?
Yes.
You're in a relationship today, yes?
Yeah.
Love life also being blessed by God, isn't it? Very good. Bianca, thank you so much for coming, sharing your story, okay? You are living proof that it's possible when we turn to faith, not only to overcome our own problems, but by doing it, overcoming our own, we end up seeing a lot of positive results in the family, at work, and around the people that we love. So if you, dear viewer, want to see the same kind of change, it's up to you. It's up to you. If you would like our help, you know, someone one day spoke to her. She said, you were in the streets just walking and someone spoke to you about faith and you took that opportunity, right?
So I think we can all agree that that was such an inspirational story from Bianca there. But what happens if you feel like you don't belong in your family at all? Well, I want to take you to the studio for another old episode about a lady who felt like the black sheep in her family. Have a look at this.
All this happened, or the beginning of things happened in your home country of Nigeria, right? But also when you came here, it didn't change, it kind of got worse.
No, it didn't change.
So please tell us, how did things start? What happened in your family back home in your country?
Well, all I was aware of is that when I was just growing up, I would say age 6, I just discovered that I was like an odd man out in the family. It was as if no one wanted me. My father, my mom, my 2 brothers, I just felt like an alien in the house. And
why do you think that was?
I didn't really know why. But all I just knew was, everybody was everybody were on their own. Like my two brothers would be on their own, my dad and my mom on their own rather.
So everyone would be separated from one another?
Separated from, yeah. No, just together, well, separated, but together with each other. And I was on my own.
Right.
But
and were you the youngest?
I was the youngest, and I'm the youngest, and I'm the only female.
Right.
And what I just knew is that when I was in nursery school, I would just come home, oh, my dad, everybody was laughing at me because I got 0, and everybody would just make jest of me. It's like, why are these people laughing at me? Then later on in my primary school, I remember coming home with an arithmetic assignment, and I asked my father to help me. The way he responded, I just thought, I'm not going to come back to meet him anymore.
What was his response?
The way he responded was out of anger, and it's like, you don't know this? So I was just thinking.
And you were?
I was just
how old were you at the time?
6 or 7.
Right.
So
instead of being supportive and wanting to help you and teach you, it's like, leave me alone. It's like you're a burden,
yes.
in other words.
Yeah.
When he reacted in that way, how did you feel?
I felt very scared. And it was as if I made up my mind that I wasn't going to go and meet him for anything anymore. And after that, all I kept hearing from everyone in the house was they called me names.
Your own family will call you names?
Yes.
Like what? What kind of names?
Thick head, or someone like, my father was just say that I should go and pray for wisdom, knowledge and understanding. And different kinds of abusive names. So,
which made things worse for you?
Yes.
Was that everyone? Was that including your mother and your brothers as well?
My mom had her own way of relating with me, which wasn't it wasn't any friendly either.
How would your mum behave towards you?
There were times that it was like, I think I went into the kitchen and I don't remember what I was doing, probably boiling water. I wasn't boiling water, but I think I dropped something and it was close to a kind of rat poison. And all she was saying to me was like, something like, you better eat it and die, something like that. So I just felt that, every time I looked at the family album, I thought, I don't belong here. I don't resemble anyone here. And I just thought that, let me just kill myself. So from around that age, I had a knife in my room, wishing that one day I was going to kill myself.
6 years old?
Yes. Around between 6 and 7 or 8, I thought I was just going to kill myself. So any story I read in school, my primary school, about death, stuck to my mind. So it was like, okay, one day I'm going to do something like that, or something like that was going to happen to me. Right. So, and my brother, I would greet him in the morning. I'll greet both of them in the morning, and what I'll hear is, what's your problem? What do you want? And I'll be wondering, what have I done to you? And anytime I go into their room, or they would use a picture of, because then I was scared of King Kong, they would put that picture in my face, and I'll run out of their bedroom. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to see them because I didn't like that picture. And later on, I remember my brother's birthday. I was saying, oh, maybe that was an opportunity for me to say happy birthday. I just wanted to say happy birthday to him. And he didn't answer me. So I said this again and said, I'll kill you. And I was wondering, what? I mean, I didn't understand. Why was he saying this to me?
I'll kill you.
Yes.
And kids can joke. But you sensed it wasn't fun. It wasn't a joke. It was like serious.
Yeah.
Right? Where did that lead to next? Because horrible what you're describing here, especially the youngest. You're meant to, you're female, the only female child, you're the youngest. You would think that you would get all the kind of the love and attention, right? They're boys, they can fend for themselves and things like that, but you didn't get that. So how did it affect you as you grew up?
Well, with time, I began to try to find solace in school. When I was at school, instead of me having friends, rather, I would join this group of people. Then after a while, if I don't feel comfortable, I'll join another set of people. If I don't feel comfortable, I join another group. So it was like, I just couldn't stay in one place.
Why would you feel uncomfortable with those different groups of people?
Because I felt a sense of rejection. I felt very insecure, and I didn't know who to trust, more or less.
Do you think, looking back, it was, okay, I got rejected by my family, in a sense, and there was already like a kind of mark on you, right? You felt rejected, you felt low, so you didn't have that kind of confidence. So if they made a joke, and kids do make jokes sometimes, but you took it to heart, you took it too seriously, and you thought, let me go and find another group of friends to hang about with. Was it like that, or was it something particular that they said to you?
Not just that, it was the whole family, because I just wanted that love, I wanted the affirmation, but I saw them as not, to me they were serious. Because I did report it to my father then, and he spoke to him, and he explained the reason why he said so. So
with your friends as well, was it the same?
It was the same with my teachers. My teachers called me names. It was a position they were supposed to give to me. They didn't give it to me, and I overheard them say so, and said the reason was because she's just too sluggish. So I was like, I carried it along with me everywhere I was. So. And I think that was part of the reason why I couldn't relate with people. I would think that they didn't like me.
Yes.
But I think it was the way I came across, rather.
Did you start believing these words that not only your family, but the teachers and the different friends said about you? Did you start believing, as you said, you were sluggish, or what other words did they use?
Because they did speak in my language then, so it was like she's too slow. I can't remember the other
Did you have
statements.
any learning difficulties at all?
I didn't, but from the whole issue, I ended up having lots of difficulties.
So you didn't have learning difficulties, but you ended up.
Yes.
What kind of learning difficulties did you get?
At first, at home, when I was told some things I didn't really like, I always responded back. So my father told me never to respond back when I'm being told anything, or by my mom or anything like that. So I discovered that with time, I began to lose my memory. I couldn't remember simple things. I'll be talking to someone, then I won't remember what I said last. Then if I put something here and I want to take it along with me, maybe when I'm going out, I would have gone very far before I remembered that I didn't have it there. And sometimes, there were times I would stutter or stammer.
Right, and you never had that.
I never had
before.
That. No.
So you developed that over a short period of time.
I think it was a long period of time, because it took a long time before I realized that actually I don't stammer. So why am I stammering?
Right.
So it took me many years before I could realize.
Obviously, with stammering, it's going to take you a lot longer to say what you want to say.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it is like a fulfilling prophecy, right? What your father said, you're sluggish. Actually, you started to talk very slow now, getting your words out. And when you started to stammer, when you started to feel or see things going this way, you said you were suicidal. You wanted to kill yourself. Did those feelings, were they still there? Did they get worse? Did you actually attempt to take your life?
Well, when later on, it became like a voice in my head to jump down from an 11-story building.
So stay tuned for the rest of that story just after the break. But before we go to the break, I want to take you again to one of the parks in London this time for one of my favourite street interviews with the public.
What are common family issues?
I think duties, moral duties. I think some people assume roles in the family and others don't always agree, so that can create tension. Political views as well, even when they're going to vote in the election and who for, that can cause arguments. And also religion. You know, a religious divide in a family can be quite difficult as well, I think.
Money, like getting money from parents, having to get a job, I think, battling with that. Yeah.
You feel like, you want to do your best to make them proud, but there's a lot of pressure on you. Yeah, money.
I think
what else?
in that like awkward teenage stage, and you like hate your parents, and then then they kind of get childish as well, and you just kind of live in this house of like verbal abuse and like slamming doors. I think just like everything, like most people go through the same sort of thing.
I think expecting too much of the other person, or expecting them to behave in the same way as you do, and that can cause conflict, because then your expectations are maybe a bit warped, and you can have these arguments and issues that basically arise because you expected someone to behave in a different way and they didn't, and they expected other things from you. And I think pretty much that, and if people could be more honest at the start and communicate more, it probably would help.
Family issues today, I think that it's revolved around the relationship between children and parents who are, for example, I'm an example of someone who left the family, and so it's hard to maintain a solid relationship when you live abroad and you're not close to your partner and live in different countries. So it can become an issue if you don't know how to handle it properly.
I think, well, for me in my life, it's accepting your family for who they are, and even though they might not be the way you want them to be, just accepting them, yeah. And it's hard to do that sometimes.
Follow My Channel's updates on Facebook. Like your favourite videos and see pictures of your favourite artists. Access our Twitter @MyChannelUK and get to know what's on with My Channel. Visit tvmychannel.com and be connected to our world. My Channel, a whole new world of entertainment.
Do the maths. Changing your life is not as simple as changing your hairstyle, your shirt, or rearranging the furniture in your living room. You're talking about years of deep-rooted habits, behaviours and problems that are not going to change overnight. Many may say, think positively, but the trouble with that is that you can't do or change anything with just thoughts. But add action into the equation and the outcome can be different. Let's do the maths. Positive thinking plus action equals a change. Whatever it is, if the change is significant, if it's worthwhile, then it will have to take time, effort and homework from you.
So, welcome back. Now, let's go straight to Lola's story of how her life turned around. So, tell us then, faith played an important part in your life turning around, right? Tell us, how did you believe in God? Because you did mention, I heard you say that, you were attending a place of worship before, yeah. Right? But were you still going through these kind of problems?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So how did things actually change for you?
Well, I went to visit a friend around my birthday time. I just went to say hello to her, and she invited someone else over, and they both prayed for me. After a while, it was like I was becoming so dependent on them. Then later on, one of them now said, well, since she didn't have a building where she could bring me into and pray for me, why not try this place? So she invited me to come to this place of worship where I'm in now.
Okay.
And and since then I've been attending.
Right. So tell us what actually happened there when you went.
So I spoke to the pastor and I began to attend some series of programs.
Yes.
So after a while, at first I didn't feel, it's like this place is different from where I've been. So that was my first reaction, and it took me a while to just readjust.
Different in a good way or different in a bad way?
It wasn't different in a bad way, but for me it was like I was used to particular, because I'd been to different places, and they were all similar. So, but when I came here, it was like, this is completely different. It wasn't what I was expecting first. So
did you speak to anyone about what
Yes, I did.
Was it easy to open up and talk to someone or not?
It wasn't that easy, because I just started with, okay, I've been experiencing some spiritual problems, and when the pastor said I have to attend some meetings, it was
you mentioned spiritual problems.
Yes.
This problem, we could say it's a physical problem. Many people watching could say, look, this is a physical problem, but did you try anything physical to get like a solution to your problems? Did you try anything physical before you actually turned to the spiritual side?
Because I had health issues, I did self-medicate myself. But for
did it help you?
Like when I took like some medications, stopped, it looked like things are getting better, then it would revert back. So it wasn't for long, but I was dependent on them.
So then, you reached a point where, look, I've tried things, I'm not seeing any answer. There must be a spiritual root, right? So, how important was faith in all of this? How important did faith play in terms of your healing and getting better? Not having the suicidal thoughts, etc.
What happened? At first, it was like I didn't have that belief that I was going to break free. It's like my mentality was just so negative. I found it so hard to believe that I could be anything. But even though when the pastor kept on saying, we believe in you, this and that, it didn't register. But with time, the first thing that came that I noticed that changed was my eating habits, because I had lots of disorders and sicknesses.
Right.
So that was the area that I first saw a change. And
was that you weren't eating properly?
Well, I had bulimia, and I also had lactose intolerance.
Right.
I had constipation. I had symptoms of ulcer. I also had lactose intolerance. I wasn't able to take nuts.
Right.
So it was just lots of them. I just had them.
And you didn't have these things before, or did they develop over time?
I think it was over time. First of all, when I was growing up, it started with bulimia, because I was comparing myself with other people, and I wanted that affirmation. So, but when I wasn't getting it, I decided to start starving myself.
Right.
So, and that when I grew older, I didn't realize it was a problem for me.
So you started seeing a difference. That was the first sign. So tell us, what was the difference that you saw?
So there was a purpose, and I took part in it. And when I just prayed, God, I believe I'm healed. Because like the man of God said that believe is prophet and you should be established. And I decided to do that. I believed. I said, just like the pastor had said, I believe. And I just said, okay, let me just try and see if I could drink milk.
Really?
Yes.
You took it upon yourself to try it?
Yes.
Knowing that maybe if you drank milk, you could, I don't know, go to the toilet or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But you decided to do it?
Yes, I decided
and
to.
what was the answer?
I noticed that I was okay.
Really?
Yeah.
In that very moment?
I think it was the following day. It was the following day.
Okay.
So then I went to take peanuts, and I realized I had no reactions.
You had no reactions?
No reactions.
Okay.
So
what was your reaction before when you ate nuts?
I would have headache. My eyes would look like they're swollen in the sockets. It's like getting bigger in the socket, in my eye socket. I had isolated pimples that would become very big and very painful.
Right.
So, and the headache could be for some days.
Just by eating nuts?
Yes.
Okay. So you went and kind of tested your faith?
Yes.
And you ate how many nuts? Did you kind of get
remember.
a mouthful and shove it down your throat? And
Not only because I do like nuts, especially when it's from back home, and I could finish a bottle.
Yeah.
So I can't remember whether there was nuts in the house that day, but I just knew that I just went to just pick nuts.
And you ate them?
And I ate them.
Nothing happened?
Nothing happened.
So for you, that was a sign?
Yeah.
Right? My faith has healed me?
Yes.
Right? And in terms of the milk, there was no reactions at all?
No.
And for you, that was a sign?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. How long were you attending that place before this actually happened?
It was over a year. I think a year and some months.
Well, would you say in that year you were kind of discovering yourself, opening up, learning to trust, or that type of things, or?
Well, because I talked so many things inside, I really didn't know who I was anymore.
Right.
So it was so difficult. It's like when I discovered something, I realized there's something else again, and there's something else again.
Right.
So it took me.
So it took a while to kind of know everything about yourself, and then kind of channel your faith into using your faith in order to receive some sort of answer or miracle, right? Mm-hmm. So for you, it was a year, about a year in that place. Yeah. What else did you start seeing? Because you said you had suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
And were those thoughts coming throughout that year?
Well, it was still coming even up till after that period, because I still struggled with accepting myself. I had lots of low self-worth. So, and it was, it took me a long time to be able to believe that I could be anything. Mm-hmm. So it was easy for those thoughts to just permeate, especially when I tried to do something and I wasn't getting through. So all I could see was, as if there was no way out, mm-hmm. lots of hopelessness. So from the time when I had that healing, it took me, I think it took me over a year or two before I could overcome that.
Right. So you started seeing changes after then. Yes. It was like, this thing works.
Yeah.
Right? My faith I have faith, it works now, I know the answer. So other things started to change for the good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Regarding the thoughts, did you have any other thoughts, suicidal thoughts after that?
Like I said, later on, I still had lots of problems with accepting myself, and that didn't make it better, because I had to keep fighting to make sure that I could just stay within the place of worship. That was one. Then
so it was a battle, a fight,
yes,
to kind of keep on coming.
Yes.
Right. But you did.
Yes.
Right. And when did you start seeing everything go?
Well, I think that was about over 2 years after that I kept on coming, and I made up my mind. I said I was going to listen to what was being said, and I couldn't continue this way. Yeah. And the first thing that I had to deal with was forgiveness. To forgive.
So it's going
family.
Back to the root,
yes,
which was your family,
yes,
again, right?
So, and also along the line, someone had abused me in my uni. So I just had to think of, because I was bullied as well, and I faced emotional trauma, and I just had to let it go. Yeah. Go back to the family as well, just let it go. So.
And were you able to get that opportunity to confront your family and say, please forgive me for the things that I held against you and that sort of thing?
Well, I said to them, forgive me I forgive you for what has happened, and for one of them, I had already done that before I came to London. So, and he had apologized on behalf of the family then for the way they treated me.
Right.
So,
how did you feel when you kind of, asked for forgiveness, or you forgave them? How did you feel?
I was able to lift my head up. That was the first thing I noticed, because prior to that, whenever I walk on the street, I look down. So, but I was able to lift my head up, and I had more confidence. Good. And I was able to start looking, beyond myself, So I was getting much
In
better.
a nutshell
stronger.
then, how is Titilola today?
Well, I'm much more confident, and I used to be afraid of confronting people before, but now I do, and taking steps to move forward with my life.
No more suicidal thoughts?
No more suicidal thoughts.
No more sluggishness?
No.
Right? No more stammering?
No.
Right? No more bulimia?
No.
nuts, milk allergies? Nothing?
No.
Everything is cleared up, if I can say.
Yes.
Brilliant. Your faith has healed you, right? Titilo, thank you for coming and sharing your story with us.
Another amazingly inspiring story there, and I hope that it's inspired you at home tonight to reach out and to reconnect with those loved ones and those family members. Remember, there is always a way which you can reconnect with the family and which you can build the family which you really want. Now, we're almost at the end of the show, but just before we go to our last break, I want to remind you to tune in just after the break, where you're going to see a familiar face of a guest who's been on a recent show, who's going to give his testimony on how he turned his life around.
Where DKW a different kind of woman. So I want to find out if you might have dyslexia. My memory's not too good today.
And it's almost like you have to be this superwoman.
Years and years ago when I watched Titanic, and obviously My Heart Will Go On came on, and it just brought me back to that time.
And I was with 4 other sisters. Lord, have mercy. So you know how they were. You're not gonna go over there and say nothing.
Come on, a little closer now, and let me know that you're mine. Woo!
It's going to be your turn to do your macaroons. No competition.
We're here at Britain's Top Designer 2015.
This is DKW. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
If I tell you a story and you like that story, what kind of story is it?
It's a comedy.
No. Manchester
United.
I'm a pro.
Although I'm Chelsea. Love talk, time to communicate.
Okay. Say that word, but differently.
It's time to communicate. Right, so we are in a relationship.
What were you doing? You're not supposed to tell me the word. We are in a marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
And we are very serious about it. So what does that say?
A serious marriage.
No. It has to do with your brain.
Intelligence.
What?
Intelligent love.
Yes. See, I'm getting good at this.
Love Talk on my channel Sky 203 every Saturday 3 p.m.
So my life before I attended UCKG was a miserable life. I think that's the word that I have to, that I can use to describe how my life was in all senses. This is mainly for me not knowing who I was. I was very dependable on people's opinion of me. I was very insecure, whether it was with boys or girls. Never really knew who I was. And I was a very, very shy guy, very, as I said, insecure guy in school, and even to the age of 12, 13, 14. And I was really sad. I was really upset about it. And over time, I started to develop some very bad flaws on my character. One of them was lying. I was very deceitful towards my parents and friends and even family members. Also, I had an addiction. I started growing an addiction from the age of 7. I started at 7 watching pornography, and to the age of 15, that's when it really kicked in. I pretty much would try to visualize women in a very lustful way. Could be anybody. could be it could be girls around the school, it could be even family members, and it was a really big problem because I was very ashamed of saying, and I would try to do everything to hide it from my parents and from my friends, even friends that would sometimes talk about it, but I would try to look good and say that I wasn't doing none of that. So pornography was really taking my mind to places that I would never imagine that it could go. I was becoming very, 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 I would have my mind very, very corrupted by the image that I was seeing in pornography. I don't understand. I want to stop, but there's something very, very, very strong in me that wants to do these things. And I couldn't see anything else besides sex. That was it. But I think my lowest moment was for me start using my mom's credit card to buy things. So I've always been this type of guy that likes to dress well, I like to have fancy things and all that. So I started using my mom's debit card to, fulfill my needs, I could say. And it got to a point that she actually called me, and she became aware that I was using her money for her bank statements. And I would try to lie to her. I would try to lie, saying it wasn't her, it was maybe something else, maybe something that she used online, and maybe the guy tricked her online or something. So I would try to deceive and lie and say that it wasn't me, to the point that we would go to the bank to see what was going on, and they said that somebody used your credit card, and I was there with her and say, I don't know what's going on, who could it be? So what I would do is I would go to the letterbox before I get the bank statement, check, see that the amount that I'd taken from her, it was there, and what I would do, I would just rip the paper and just throw it somewhere far away in the bin or something. On the inside, I was broken. On the inside, I was broken because I knew it was wrong, but it felt like I still had this big desire to buy the things that I thought that I needed. So I would just overlook the fact that I was feeling bad and just keep going about it. Until one day I called one of the guys that I already knew before from the church, and I just told him that, is it fine for me to go back to the youth group? Because at the time I was going to the youth group also. So I had been introduced to the youth group before. So I told him, is it fine if I go to the youth group again and see how things are over there? And he said, yeah, fine, come. I was actually very afraid because I had come before, but I was left. So I was afraid of, oh man, I'm going back there. How is it going to be the reaction? Oh, this guy's been missing for 6 months, 7 months now, and now he's coming back. So I would hear the message. But at the beginning, I wasn't really applying. I was thinking that it would be too hard for me to actually change as a person because the problems that I had were so serious in my eyes. So even though I was listening to the message, I truly believe that it was very, very hard for me to change. But after a couple of months, I would say, of course, speaking to people over there, I actually start believing that it was actually very, very possible for me to change. So I just started developing myself, my faith, of course, and yeah, that was the time that I actually started to see some improvements on myself. One of them was the pornography. I actually made a decision to stop watching, and that time that I made the decision, that was it. I never watched ever again. And yeah, so the youth group, the message, the services, everything really helped me to overcome. My life today is, I can say, it is very different. I would never imagine that I would be in this position today. I'm a completely different person. I no longer watch pornography, of course. I no longer need to lie and use my mom's credit card to scam and all that. And I'm a very different person. I actually have a much better relationship with my mom now, with my parents, with all my family in general. And I think right now I'm in a position that I'm able to help other people that have that type of situation, that are going through those issues, whether it's pornography or just any other thing in general. And my life is completely different now. I'm going to the church, of course. I'm attending regularly, and I'm in the youth group too regularly. I'm not missing anymore, and it's a change. I'm a changed man, I would say. Yeah. Thanks to God, man. It was only Him changing me, man. It's only Him changing me.
So sadly, we are coming to the end of this special edition of Finding Answers tonight, but I hope that these stories have inspired you to reach out, to reconnect with your family, and to show you that there is a way through faith that you can turn your life around. Now remember, there's always someone here to listen to you if you want to give us a call. Just call us on 0207 686 6300. You can also email us if you prefer, and the email address should be at the bottom of your screen now. It's help@findinganswers.tv. As always, you can find us on social media, so look up Finding Answers on Facebook, look up Finding Answers on Instagram, and do search all of the old episodes of Finding Answers on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know what you think of the show. But for now, it's the end of the show, so I'm going to say good night to you, and remember to tune in tomorrow for another great inspirational story here with us at Finding Answers.